Sunday dinner, my dad looked me in the eye and said, "You'd still be sleeping with roaches if it weren't for us." My sister let out a laugh, sharp, amused, like it tickled her pride. I just sat there, quiet. By 7:18 the next morning, a moving truck rolled up their driveway. I took back the $6,300 couch, the curved TV, and the fancy espresso station. Every thank you I ever handed over like a peace offering. All that was left were 4 cheap plastic chairs pointed at a blank wall. At 9:03, my brother called, voice tight. "Why'd you take everything?" I told him, felt fair. I was raised surrounded by plastic too. That evening at 6:42 p.m., a box showed up on my doorstep. No return address. I already knew what it meant. Sunday dinners had always been emotional bear traps dressed up like family tradition. Still I kept going. Out of habit. Out of that dumb, leftover hope that maybe, just once, they'd treat me like I wasn't a walking debt ledger. The house always had that mix of garlic knots reheated too many times and a plug-in scent called Tuscan Sunrise, which might as well be code for lemon-scented chemical warfare. The table was already dressed up, 5 place settings, gold-edged menus, yes, menus, and one sad little name card that said, +1, in a boring sans serif font. I wasn't anyone's +1. If anything, I was -100. Mom spotted me first. "Oh good, you made it," she said, still poking around in the oven. My sister didn't even lift her eyes off her phone. That? He was already a few sips deep into his favorite drink, judgment in a wine glass. He motioned toward the kitchen counter. Not the dining table. Not even the couch. Just a cold granite slab beside the sink. "Sit there," he said. "We're still figuring out the seating." The table had napkin rings. My seat had a trash bin next to it that opened when you walked by. Then came the moment. Right before they served the chicken parm. Right before I was supposed to fake a smile like I hadn't just seen the seating chart with my name scratched out. Dad raised his glass and said it again, just loud enough to sting. "You know, if it weren't for us, you'd still be living with cockroaches." My sister laughed again. That kind of laugh that starts in the throat but lands straight in superiority. Mom smiled, small and tight. No one looked my way. I stayed quiet. Silence has a taste. It's metallic, like rusted memories and swallowed words. I picked at my dry salad and said nothing. At 7:18 the next morning, a truck pulled up. By 7:40, the couch was loaded up and gone. The espresso station I wired into their kitchen? Unplugged. The OLED TV I wrapped up and gifted at Christmas? Boxed and rolled out. I took back everything I ever gave with a bow and a smile. By 8:10, all that remained in the living room were 4 mismatched plastic chairs facing a wall. A tribute to emptiness. At 9:03, my brother called again. His voice shook like someone had just disconnected his entitlement. "Why'd you take everything?" I said it again, calmly this time, seemed fair. I grew up surrounded by plastic too. That night at 6:42, a box showed up at my place. No note. No sender. Just one thing inside. Because every thank you I ever gave them? It wasn't a gift. It was a loan. They just never realized they were running a tab. Inside the box was a silver-framed photo. Me in high school graduation robes, gown twisted sideways, cap crooked, standing between 2 people who used to call themselves my parents. There was a sticky note pressed against the glass. "Don't forget who believed in you first." I stared at it for 10 solid seconds. Then I slid it into the drawer where I keep old ketchup packets and a receipt from last November, $1, $200 rent I covered for my sister when she said her living situation was temporary. She swore she'd pay me back by spring. Spring passed. Then summer. Then she went out and bought herself a Dyson. The truth is, they've been borrowing pieces of me for years. And I let them. Quietly. Willingly. Like a fool. Let's rewind. Back when I first started making real money, the kind that hits your account and makes you sit back in your chair, my mom called, sobbing about a busted pipe. "Just for a month," she said. "We'll sort it out." I wired $2,000. No questions asked. Then it became routine. Like clockwork, every first of the month. They called it a shared family fund. A year passed, $24,000 gone. Then came my sister's job loss, or transition, as she put it. She needed time to find herself. I covered her rent, $200 a month, for 7 months. That's $8,400. She eventually did find herself. In Italy. Then my brother needed help with a tuition deposit, $6,042. All I got in return was a thumbs up emoji. Not even a sentence. Their car gave out. I gave them mine. A beat-up 2012 Civic. The AC only worked if you whispered sweet nothings to it, but it still ran. "We're so lucky to have you," they said. "This won't be forever," they promised. "You're different," they added. Different meant, you're strong enough to bleed for us longer than most. I never kept a tally. Not out loud anyway. But I remembered how it felt, how every help sounded like a handshake, not a handout. They never really said thank you. Not in full sentences. Once, Mom even joked, "Well, you don't have kids or a mortgage. What else are you gonna do with all that money?" Like my stability was their inheritance. Like my bank account was some community resource with a door always left unlocked. And I played the role. For years I showed up, paid up, smiled through it, kept the peace. Bought gifts so thoughtful they cried and called it love. Flew home every Christmas with luggage full of presents. My brother showed up with a six-pack and a shrug. I covered the vet bill for a dog I hadn't seen in 3 years. Once, I sent $700 for groceries and watched my sister post a brunch selfie with the caption, "Babes and mimosas." They didn't have to say it out loud. I could feel it, yours, because I was the one who made it out. I moved to the city, got the job, put in the hours, paid my bills. No kids, no messy divorce, no rehab, just spreadsheets, almond milk, and guilt. And slowly, they turned my stability into their emergency fund. If I paused, I was the bad guy. If I asked questions, I was cold. If I said no, I was ungrateful. One time, in the middle of a fight, Dad looked right at me and said, "We gave you everything. The least you could do is return the favor." I asked him what everything meant. He said, "A roof, food, support." I said, "You mean parenting?" He didn't answer. Just turned the volume up on the TV. They liked to pretend it was charity. But here's the truth, why I really took it all back. The couch. The espresso machine. The TV. Every so-called gift they thought came no strings attached. It wasn't about getting even. It wasn't even about being mad. It was about finally seeing things clearly. I needed them to face it, to sit in it. The truth, undecorated and cold. I wanted them to see what that house really looked like without me woven into the seams. To understand what their comfort cost when it wasn't silently bankrolled by me. I left 4 plastic chairs lined up against a blank wall, because that's what they gave me. A seat on the sidelines while they helped themselves to everything. They built their comfort off the illusion of mutual love. But it wasn't mutual, it was mine. And I needed them to understand that none of it was magic. Every upgraded appliance, every cozy convenience, they didn't just appear. Every espresso they sipped came from a wallet they confused with unconditional affection. I didn't want groveling. I wanted awareness. Then came the real betrayal. Worse than silence. Pricier than forgiveness. They assumed I'd never figure it out. And for a while they were right, until I did. It all started with a Facebook photo. Posted at 2:13 p.m., 5 days after that infamous dinner. There was Mom, bundled in a chunky cable knit sweater, cradling a mug like she was filming a holiday commercial. Caption, "Nothing like family time in the mountains." But those mountains? They looked suspiciously Swiss. The mug had a logo. A ski resort I once looked up but never went to, because even then, I couldn't justify the price. I zoomed in. My dad was wearing that dumb red parka I got him last Christmas. My sister had a new camera slung around her neck. My brother? Smiling wide in the background, ski pass held up like a trophy. They looked satisfied. Almost wealthy. I opened my banking app. Not out of paranoia, but because I was done being naive. And there it was. $8,743.91. charged to the family emergency credit card. The one I told them was strictly for real emergencies. Flights to Zurich. Hotel stays in Interlaken. Ski gear rentals. Something called a Sky Fondue Experience. A $320 ripoff where you eat cheese in a gondola. This wasn't a vacation. It was a robbery. Starring me as the getaway driver. They made me the financial mule. The worst part? They planned it. While I was sitting by the trash can at dinner, chewing on dry salad and pretending not to notice the seating chart, they were folding snow gear into designer bags. They didn't invite me. Didn't even mention it. And just when I thought it couldn't sting worse, another photo surfaced. My brother's girlfriend on a ski lift, tagging the location. Caption, just us. No drama this time. No drama. Because I was the drama. I checked the date. 4 days ago. The same day Dad casually asked if I could keep the family credit open, just in case. They were already sipping glühwein in Switzerland. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. I took screenshots. Every receipt. Their flight itineraries. Their ski pass numbers pulled from the shared travel wallet. My card. My accounts. My ID. They didn't just spend my money, they impersonated me to do it. Then came the final punch. A text. From my brother. Meant for someone else. He's too naive to check. Whoa. I stared at that message for a full minute. Then I replied. He just did. That was the switch. The last switch I ever let them flip. I spent the next 2 hours calling banks, airlines, resorts, every place on the itemized list. I disputed charges. Flagged bookings. Froze the card. Cancelled the cheese gondola midlift. And the best part? I set fraud alerts to email every single one of them. So they didn't wake up to the sunrise over the Alps. They woke up to identity theft alerts. At 6:03 a.m., my phone lit up like a slot machine. I didn't pick up. Not for the first 3 calls from Mom. Not for the 5 calls from James. Not for the blocked number. Definitely Steve or Donna trying to play mediator. At 7:41 a.m., I finally answered. It was Dad. Voice sharp, nervous. Son, we need $4,200 to fly back to San Francisco. Can you help us? Just for now. No. Silence. You can't be serious. Enjoy the rest of the trip. You'll have plenty to explain when you get home. And then I hung up. Smiling. They flew back Thursday morning. I didn't have to stalk flight numbers. Mrs. Langley, the neighbor across the street, texted me at 6:12 a.m. They're back. Suitcases look destroyed. Your dad's limping. Perfect. At 6:41 a.m., I parked across the street. Like a repo agent with a personal vendetta. Donna was yelling into her phone. Steve looked like he had slept on a tile floor. James was dragging a suitcase with a busted wheel while his girlfriend recorded a TikTok called, Betrayal, but make it cute. My parents stood by the front door. Not ashamed. Just irritated. I didn't wave. Didn't say a word about their trip. I walked straight up to Dad, looked him dead in the eye, and said, You owe me $4,100. Non-refundable charges. You've got 72 hours. He blinked. Mom blinked harder. We didn't steal, she said. I answered, You used my identity. That's not just tacky, it's illegal. James stepped forward, playing the reasonable sibling. You're making this a bigger deal than it is. I turned to him. You excluded me. But used my card. Posted it all with a hashtag. You planned a trip with my money and left me behind. That's not an oversight. That's a blueprint. He rolled his eyes. It was meant to be fun. You're just bitter. No, I said. I'm just finally accurate. I pulled out my phone. Opened a folder titled, Family Fraud. Screenshots. Flight confirmations. Passports. Donna's name on the rental agreement. Steve listed as the emergency contact for the cheese gondola waiver. 3 days, I said again. Then I go to the police. Mom opened her mouth, probably to beg or deny. I shut it all down with one look. By sunset, the money showed up in my account. No subject line. Just numbers. Most likely wired by Uncle Mark, the family's unofficial fixer when things hit the fan. They thought it was over. It wasn't. 2 days later, my student loan servicer called me. "Hi, Mr. Palmer. We're reaching out to confirm your role as financial guarantor for James Palmer's tuition account." My soul left my body right then. I never signed up for that. They said, "We have your signed form on file." She emailed it to me. There it was, my name, my address, my forged signature, and a checked box that said, "Assumes responsibility in case of non-payment." They didn't just steal a vacation. They stole my future. I reported it immediately, sent over my ID, compared signatures, sent screenshots. The woman on the line said it'd be investigated. But until then, I was on the hook. James had forged me into $6,000 worth of debt. He didn't call. Didn't say sorry. Instead, he posted on social media. Sometimes people turn their backs when you need them most. Guess they were never really family. I laughed. Out loud. By myself. Then I filed an identity theft report. Called my lawyer. Froze my credit. But that was just the beginning. Because when I checked the shared family folder on my cloud, the one where I used to keep receipts, tax forms, utility bills, I noticed changes. Names swapped out. Emails added. Access granted to Mom. My brother. They'd been planning this for months. Layered lie on lie. Using my name as leverage. My silence as approval. My bank account as their family bailout. They expected me to stay quiet. To keep the peace. But what they didn't expect was the reckoning. They thought silence meant surrender. 3 days after the ski trip fraud and forged tuition disaster, I sent a message to the family group chat. Sunday, 2 p.m. My place. All of you. No emojis. They showed up like people walking into a courtroom, clueless they were on trial. Overdressed. Overprepared. Underaware. My sister wore some Pinterest-stealing dress. Mom clutched a lemon tart like it was a peace treaty. Dad wore sunglasses. Indoors. Classic move when shame's too loud to meet eyes. They thought I was calling a truce. What they got was a picnic table on my back porch, office chairs, and a stack of folders with their names on them. No tablecloth. No food. Just raw sunlight and colder truths. Each chair had a sign taped to the back. No more excuses. Here's what you can actually afford. You're not broke. You're comfortable in chaos. These are your options now. Mom tried to smile. Sister laughed nervously. Dad said nothing. But I saw his jaw clench when he spotted his folder. I sat down. They didn't. I started. These are job options. I called in favors. I wrote resumes. I even paid a guy on Fiverr to make your LinkedIn sound legit. James scoffed. You think this is funny? No, I said. It's overdue. Then I read the list aloud. Mom, admin role at a senior center. Full-time. Benefits included. No drama. Dad, inventory assistant at a hardware store. 8 to 4, weekends off. Sister, front desk at a local vet clinic. Small team. Hourly pay, resume builder. Brother, construction site logistics. Hard work. Honest pay. Quick turnover. Mom blinked, like I'd spoken another language. But I used to be a teacher, she said. You used to say I was family. Things change. Dad's voice was low, tight. Is this how you treat your parents now? No, I said. This is how I treat adults who commit credit fraud, forge my signature, and exclude me from weddings they paid for with my money. Then I handed out the last sheet. A full ledger. Every dollar I spent on them. $6,300 for the couch. $2,400 for the espresso station. $8,743.91 for Switzerland. $8,400 for sister's rent. $6,042 for James's tuition. $3,600 for car insurance and loan vehicle. $7,500 wedding check, rescinded. Total, $42,985.91. At the bottom I wrote, this was generosity. You turned it into expectation. Now it's over. My sister muttered, you've always been dramatic. I nodded. You've always been entitled. No one touched the lemon tart. Then I slid the final envelope across the table. Inside, copies of the fraud reports. One for each of them. Unfiled. For now. This is what happens next, I said. You can accept the help I just offered. Or you can explain yourselves to a very patient officer named Lenny who already has the case draft. Dad stood. Looked at the folder. Then at me. You think this makes you powerful? No, I said. I think it finally makes me free. I walked into the house. Left the door open behind me. Let them feel the wind of a world no longer revolving around my wallet. They didn't leave right away. They sat there, stunned. Like people who'd just been evicted from a home they never paid rent on. Then James broke the silence. He stood, fists clenched, folder unopened. You think this fixes anything? You think humiliating us makes you right? I stared him down. No. Being right makes me right. He looked like he wanted to flip the table. Honestly? I kind of wanted him to. Dad stepped in, voice low and dangerous. We're your family. I nodded. Exactly. And that used to mean something. Then came the line they probably rehearsed in the car. Mom said it softly. Words dipped in sugar. Let's just start fresh. Clean slate. No past. No blame. I laughed. Like someone handed me a fortune cookie reading. Denial runs in our family. A clean slate? I repeated. After you burned the whiteboard? They didn't have a reply. So I said it for them. You want forgiveness without accountability. You want access without any responsibility. You want me to act like nothing happened so you can go back to the good old days, when my wallet fueled your fantasy. I leaned forward, calm and collected. Surgical even. You used me. You lied to me. Stole from me. Left me out. And now you expect to skip the fallout because I'm supposed to be the mature one? They shrank back in their chairs. I said, I'm done paying the price for your emotional comfort. Then I pulled out my final move. I set a binder on the table. Big, bold letters on the cover. In case you want to see what adulting really looks like. Inside, budget templates. Employment guides. Financial literacy booklets. A list of free therapy centers. And on the front page, this note. I won't be the one explaining this. My sister started crying, quietly. Not the kind of cry for forgiveness, but for being exposed. Dad stared out the window like it might open a tunnel for escape. Mom looked at me like I'd died and come back as a stranger she never raised. And in that moment I knew, they finally saw it. I had changed. They'd been relying on the old me. The guy who flinched at guilt. Folded under pleas. Paid up to keep the peace. That version was gone. Now, they were sitting across from the man they raised but never thought they'd have to answer to. Here's the offer, I said. You take these job listings. You start fixing what you broke. Or you keep pretending, and watch what happens when I finally stop pretending with you. No one moved. So I stood up. As I walked away, I said, you wanted a fresh start? Here's rock bottom. Now climb. I left the door wide open. Let them decide if they still knew how to walk through one without stepping on someone else's back. Silence, that was the first thing I bought for myself. Not a gadget. Not another invoice marked family emergency. Just silence. Complete. Unbothered. 47 days. Not a second more. Not a second less. I counted. They probably did too. 47 days since I dragged out those plastic chairs and watched them sit in their own discomfort for the first time. By day 3, my sister broke. She texted me, no job title, no thank you. Just 2 words tossed like a lifeline she thought I'd catch. I didn't. Day 5, Dad sent a PDF called Let's Rebuild What We Broke. 5 pages of vague metaphors, misquoted scripture, and a picture of a dove clutching an olive branch. I trashed it faster than I used to wire rent. Day 7, Mom left a voicemail that cracked halfway through. We miss you. Your chair's still here. The house is too quiet without your coffee machine. Funny how they always measured my presence by the things I brought, not the space I held. By day 10, the silence shifted. They weren't sure if I was punishing them or replacing them. I wasn't doing either. I was healing. Healing sounds like nothing. On day 13, I passed their house on purpose. The garden was overgrown. Dad's prized lemon tree leaned, unpruned. The porch light flickered like a bad metaphor. I didn't slow down. Didn't knock. Let them feel what absence really looks like. Day 18 James called. I answered. His voice was tired, humbled in a way only hard work can teach. I've been working construction, paying the loan. Not fast, but it's moving. I said nothing. Let my silence say more than words. He didn't ask for forgiveness. That wasn't for sale. He added, you were always the one building while we just lived in it. I ended the call. Because some truths don't need applause, just space. Day 22, Mom sent a photo of a recipe card. My handwriting from when I was 12. Dad's birthday cake. Don't burn it this time. She captioned it, we kept the old box. Just never looked inside. I didn't reply. But something shifted. Regret is heavy when it shows up late. Day 25, Facebook. No family photos. Just a quote Mom posted. Sometimes the one who walks away isn't the villain. They're just done sweeping the mess. Small progress. Not admission. But the start of one. Day 28, I changed my number. Day 31, I used the spare key. Walked in. No knocking. The espresso machine? Gone. Replaced by a kettle and a chipped mug. The TV? Smaller. Probably donated. The couch? Vanished. In its place, 2 folding chairs facing a wall where my TV used to hang. They finally looked as stripped down as I'd always felt. No one was home. I left an envelope on the counter. No name. Just read. Inside, an itemized bill. Again, not for money. For time. Patience. Silence. Therapy. And a postscript. What I gave was love. What you took was advantage. Don't confuse the two again. Day 36, a call from a new number. The voice steadier than I expected. Mom's got 2 interviews. James paid another $600. I work nights now. The depot's boring, but it's honest. Then a pause. We're not asking to come back. Just wanted you to know, we finally stepped up. Without you. That was the point. Day 40, an email from my sister. Subject, car update. She bought a used Honda. This one's fully mine, she wrote. I named it Closure. Cringy. But for once? No Venmo request attached. Day 44, I wrote my letter. You said life was better without me. Prove it. You said you didn't need me. Prove it. You said I overreacted. Keep saying it. To yourselves. Do not call. Do not text. You don't owe me. But I don't owe you. You mistook my love for a subscription. You treated my generosity like a free trial with auto-renew. You thought I was a wallet with feelings. Now you only have feelings. Spin them wisely. No name. No signature. Just an envelope dropped in their mailbox at 2:03 p.m. on day 47. Didn't wait. Didn't knock. Didn't look back. And on the back, written in thick black marker. This was never about money. This was about memory. And now? I'm free.